Hey everybody, I'm here today with my review of Season 34, Episode 1 of The Ultimate Fighter. Now, I've been watching UFC going all the way back to the 90s, and, back in the day where it'd be like, here's a guy who is a karate expert, and here's a guy who's a sumo wrestler. Fight, back when it was that kind of cartoonish spectacle before it became what we know today as UFC. So when season one came out, like I watched that, like just that was one of my favorite shows that year. So I've been following it for some time, fell off for a bit, and have been getting back into it now. Especially with the move over to Paramount Plus, where now I can actually watch the fights. Because that's the thing is, as the cost of the pay-per-views have gotten higher and higher and higher, I really fell off. And I'd watch some special ones here and there, but I really fell off on it. And now I can kind of dive back in and get that enjoyment out of it again and follow it a bit more closely. So when this season was ramping up, I was ready to go. So finally got into the first episode, and we have Daniel Cormier versus Bisping as the coaches, like both fighters. So, right there, that's got me hooked in because I like both these guys. And, it suffers from some of the kind of tropey kind of edits and gimmicks of reality TV, which, is to be expected. They do a lot of the kind of overselling of things, which kind of telegraphs how things are going to go towards the end. We go through them picking the teams, and it gets down to that. They have to cut 4 automatically just by the end of each guy picking their teams. You do get a little bit of drama once they start into the training. You got 2 guys who kind of get into it, and one guy kind of headbutts the one, and the other guy takes a swing and cuts him over the eye. And that kind of goes nowhere. Cormier, kind of gets on Bisping and like yells at him about cutting this guy, and that's not going anywhere. It's going to be used to build drama when these two finally actually fight in the octagon, which that works. It's basic storytelling 101 type stuff, but ultimately they don't do much with it during the episode. It really gets focused down to when they pick their first fight, which is Anna Milosano versus Melissa Amaya. Melissa, they really sell her on being a really solid grappler, whereas they sell Anna on being kind of balanced in skill set between striking and kicks and grappling, and really kind of oversell that. And that was kind of what I was talking about, where they kind of do that, thing that reality shows tend to do, which is like, you hype one side because, and then ultimately what ends up happening is the complete opposite of what they're hyping. You see it in a lot of competition reality shows, where they kind of oversell, this person might go home, they might go home, and then you get to the end and it's the other person that goes home. Big Brother does that a lot, where they really oversell, like, and Big Brother's gotten really bad about it. Not to go off on too much of a tangent, but they've gotten really bad about it, especially around things like, who competes for veto, where they'll sit there and be like, boy, I hope this person gets picked. I hope this person gets picked. Oh, I don't think they're going to get picked. Oh no, they're not going to get picked. And then they ultimately get picked. So they, these shows kind of do kind of a bad job with that sometimes, because it becomes very predictable. And that kind of pays off here as well. We get to the first fight, and it's a good little scrappy fight. But, and this is something I talked to my buddy who's big on MMA. He does, Jeet Kune Do. He's gotten really heavy into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lately. And I always kind of talk to him about this when I'm watching some of these fights, where I'm like, why do these strikers think they can box their way out of an MMA fight? Like, yeah, it works if the other guy decides to try and box you, but this kind of happens here, where Anna tries to kind of, box her way around Melissa. And of course, Melissa, there's some good balance in the match, but Melissa, she gets this one good kick in there, takes Anna down, and then gets her into a rear naked choke and ends up winning. And so, like I said, they spend a lot of time kind of overselling Anna's skills, especially on the striking, and then kind of making Melissa feel like she's just a grappler and can't do strikes. Well, the strike ended up winning the match ultimately because Melissa got that one really good kick in, just boom, and took her down, and then wrapped her up into that rear naked choke. But very solid. It was a really solid little match. Short, but it was quite good. It was a fun little match watching those two go at it. And we get towards the end where they go to pick the next fighters. They tease the two guys who scrapped earlier, during training, but Cormier says, I'm not going to reward that behavior. And so, they pick the next fighters. But of course, that's just kind of the lead into the tease for the next episode. So overall, I would say it's a very traditional reality show start. You get a little bit of them in the house and chumming around. You get the little bit of drama with the two guys fighting during training. So, it's very traditional, reality show stuff. But, I think that first fight that you get at the end of the episode is really nice. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a very tight, nice little fight. And a good way to really, kind of start off, the season with a really fun, quick fight that doesn't overstay its welcome. And then you get the tease into the next episode of who's going to be fighting next. So I think this season's off to a good start. I'm really looking forward to keeping up on it through the remainder of the season and, see who ends up winning this year. So, do you guys watch UFC? Do you watch The Ultimate Fighter? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next episode.